Why do marketing campaigns fail? Maybe your main products and services are doing well, or maybe they're not, but you said, you know what? It's time to add something new to my business. So you went to release a new, offer for your clients and customers. You went to release a new service. Maybe it was a workshop, maybe it's a challenge, maybe it's a subscription thing, whatever it may be. You released it. And then womp womp womp. Or maybe it was yay for the first hour. And then it was womp womp womp. Well, before we go into this show here this evening, I know some of you are likely new watching us, whether you're watching live on Facebook and LinkedIn or you are watching on YouTube. Welcome to Entrepreneurship is a Marathon with yours truly, Vanessa Zami, the business defibrillator. I consult business owners on how to revive, grow, and scale their business without the struggle, without the sacrifice, and without the overwhelm. Yes. And so I started my business a couple of years ago. In the beginning stages of my business, I essentially released a best-selling book. Well, I released a book and I made it into a bestseller, right? So what I did was that was my first successful campaign in my business was in January 2020 when I released my book on ebook on Amazon called Finish, The Solopreneur's Guide to Getting Stuff Done. I self-published it. At the time, I had an email list of 10 people, right? And it wasn't even like email list. It was just, if you count the people who I had, calls with or etc. By the time 10 people, I was avoiding social media. So literally, I didn't even have a Facebook business page, no Facebook business page. I had an Instagram, a personal Instagram account that essentially had like 50 people, 50 people, 50. And that was pretty much just like friends. And essentially, didn't have any social media. And yet I still managed to get over 500 orders in 5 days without any ads. And my book ended up reaching bestseller in business project management, business decision making, and business philosophy, right? And how did I do that? We're going to go into that this evening as we talk about how you can avoid the top 5 mistakes that people make in their marketing campaign so that your next campaign can be a successful one indeed. All right. So I want you to type in the comments, what is your next campaign that you're working on? Right? Are you releasing a campaign right now? Feel free to use this as a promotional opportunity, right? So what is your next campaign that you're working on? But more importantly, as I do on every episode and every show, if you've been watching for a while, is I always ask, what has been your win of the week, right? And so type in the comments, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the replay, but hashtag replay, what has been your win of the week? What are you celebrating? It could be personal, it could be business, but what are you celebrating this week? Right. And so it could be that, for example, I was in a meeting last week and I was like, I managed to get to the location without Google Maps. Like, ooh, look at me. Right. But what has been your win of the week in terms of what's been my win of the week? Oh, my win of the week is I was invited to teach again in the spring quarter. And so as a professor for Portland State University School of Business, and so I was invited to teach again next quarter. So that was a win. That was unexpected. So yay. So that's a win I'm celebrating. But essentially, what has been your win of the week? Type it in the comments. And let's get into it, right? Why do marketing campaigns fail? So number one is that essentially a lot of people, here's the thing, business is a series of launches. You probably agree with this. If you haven't been in business long, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But if you think back to your business, you think about all those like highs and lows and roller coasters, etc. Business is a series of launches, right? You're not really going to sustain yourself on business by just releasing one thing and then you'll be around for the next 5 to 10 years. It's a series of launches. And there are 3 phases to each of the launch. A lot of people, what happens is that you're focusing on just the day one, right? You focus on just the day one of the launch, but there are 3 phases. There are all the days before the day one, there's the actual launch date, and then there are all the days after day one, right? And so the pre, the during, and then the post-launch phase. And so the question you need to ask yourself when you think about your past marketing campaigns, or you think about maybe a campaign that you're doing right now, did you rush the process? Are you rushing the process? Did you rush the process in order to launch that next product? So for example, for my book, it was 3 months. Okay. 3-month process, essentially from the time that I actually finished writing the book to the actual date of launch. It was about a 2.5-month process. Right. And so it was not like, I just finished writing the book. Here you go. Release it to the world. Like, no, it was a 2.5-month process. And that was because it was all carefully laid out. We'll talk about that in the next 4 mistakes to avoid. But essentially for you, really ask yourself, did you rush the process or are you rushing the process? It's very easy to rush the process because maybe you're stressed out. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe, you are just like at a place in your business where you're just like, I don't know what to do next. Let me just like release stuff into the world. But it does not mean that you rush the process. Because when you rush the process, you're not giving enough time for that launch to be successful. You're just not. You're not giving enough time for that launch to be successful when you're just trying to rush the process, right? So number 1 is don't rush the process. Okay? Carefully take the time to think about each of the phases. How do you think about each of the phases effectively? We're going to talk about that next. Mistake to avoid. Second mistake to avoid is to essentially ensure that you have a goal. So a lot of people, what happens is that they'll, in that rush of the process, you'll release your marketing campaign, right? But you don't actually know or understand a clear goal for it. Your goal, you might be saying, but yeah, my goal, Vanessa, is to release this into the world. That's the goal, to share with the world. My goal is to share this class with the world. My goal is to, share this podcast with the world. My goal is to, share my website with the world, right? Or to share my new, bake item that I did, or to share my new clothing, or whatever it may be. You're just like, yeah, it's my goal. My goal is to share it with the world. That's not a goal, right? Understanding the goal of your campaign is, what are you launching and what do you want from it, right? We're going to go into that actually in another couple minutes as well too. But it's sort of, what are you launching and what do you want from it? And I say that to say, for example, for my book launch, what I wanted was the best-selling author title. That was the goal. The best-selling author title. That was the goal of the campaign. And I achieved that goal. But that was the goal of the campaign, was to essentially get the best-selling author title. That was the goal. Period. Right? Versus other people maybe releasing a book and their goal is to, have an autobiography for their grandkids to reference later on in the future. Right? Or even when for example, I launched my YouTube channel back in a couple months ago. I launched my YouTube channel and my goal for that YouTube channel was to just have it. I didn't write. And so that was my goal. My goal was to just have it as an option for people, as a sort of a one-stop shop for people to look at past episodes, right, in a clear spot versus having to scroll through my LinkedIn posts or having to scroll through Facebook, and essentially just having a one-stop shop for people to say, okay, what were Vanessa's past episodes? Oh, let me go on the YouTube channel. And so that was the goal of the YouTube channel, was just for it to exist. Versus, let's say if I was trying to be a YouTuber and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna release this YouTube channel. I'm gonna be a YouTuber. Like, I'm gonna be an influencer in the YouTube space, right? That's a whole nother different goal. And you can imagine with that different goal, there are different sort of priorities, different tasks, different ways and things that are going to be needed based on that. And so understanding, what are you launching and what do you actually want from it? Right. And it's not what everyone else wants. It's what do you want from that thing? Right. What do you want from that thing that you're launching? And then number 3, the third mistake to avoid is, don't confuse strategy with campaign. Do not confuse your strategy, your marketing strategy, your marketing campaign. There are 2 separate things. Right. So there's marketing strategy and there's marketing campaign. There are 2 separate things. Right. Your marketing sort of campaign, right? The campaign itself, when I say campaign, when we talk about campaign is the content, it's the copy, it's the visuals, it's, it's the time, it's the investment, it's the timeline, it's all the nooks and crannies, right? That's what the campaign. So when we talk about the 3 phases, your pre, your during, and your post-launch phase, right? You want to ensure that you have your campaign set and prepared for each of those phases, right? What's the strategy? The strategy is the high level way that you're going to be releasing that campaign into the world, right? So think about the strategy is more so how do you intend for people to engage with that campaign, right? So a question to ask yourself here is, when you're thinking about your past campaigns or even your current campaign, did you or do you have a clearly defined strategy of outreach? And did you or do you prepare your campaign in advance for each of the phases? Right? So do you have a clearly defined strategy of outreach, just overall for the entire campaign, but also did you prepare your campaign in advance? So for example, my book, right? I already knew the forms I would use. Again, I was like, forms I would use. I said, okay, I've avoided social media for a bit, but let me at least do a couple of posts here on social media, right? And so I did a couple of posts and on my personal profile. I didn't have a Facebook business page at the time. And so I did that. I used that essentially. I knew I was going to do that. I knew I was going to use text message. What other forms did I use? I did it personal, like messages to people as well via Facebook and LinkedIn as well too. And so I sort of knew that that was sort of my strategy. The actual campaign, that becomes a question of, okay, what am I going to say in the message? What am I going to actually text people? What am I going to post up? What is the image that am I going to use to post up, etc. Right? When am I going to post these images, etc. Right? And so that is the actual campaign. So the strategy, think of it more so. I've talked about this in other videos. I was talking about this in my masterclass, the complete business revival system. But the marketing and sales funnel, right? So your strategy is your marketing and sales funnel, but your campaign is sort of the actual content, right? It's the actual investment. It's the actual, plan for, okay, we're going to do $500 in ads, or we're going to do $0 in ads, or, we're going to do ads in Google versus ads on Facebook, whatever it may be. But that's the actual sort of, strategy or campaign side of the things, is the nooks and crannies and details. And so think about for yourself, what is your clearly defined strategy of outreach, right? And do you have your actual campaign prepared in advance for each phase of the launch, including the pre, the during, and the post, right? And I'm taking a quick break. But essentially, I know when we come back, we're going to take a quick little break here. When we come back, we'll be going into the last two mistakes. I want you to take the time to process what we talked about thus far. And if you have any questions, type it in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, I want you to put #replay. If you're watching on YouTube, you can right after you scroll below, you're gonna see the subscribe button, right? The red subscribe button. You can click that subscribe button. And then you scroll even more and you go into the comment section. So think about any questions that you may have, but essentially give you time to do that. I'm gonna take a quick, essentially 30-second and 1 minute break, and we'll then go back into the last two mistakes you want to avoid in your next campaign as you go through and navigate the three phases of the marketing campaign. Alrighty, chat with you in a couple of seconds here. So I believe I know some things about you in your current situation. I know that you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, you're struggling, you're discouraged, right? You dream of becoming a calm and confident full-time entrepreneur with abundant time and financial freedom. Currently, perhaps you're focused on leaving your demanding corporate job and growing your business. Or maybe you're just focused on just growing your business, right? But let me ask you a question. Would you be ecstatic if you could increase your revenue, be more consistent with your marketing and social media, and get more time to work on your business and be more productive? Because if you could do those things, ultimately, that would mean you could make a difference in your community, city, state, country, or world. And if you could make that difference, wouldn't that be amazing? And so I have an upcoming class called How to Grow Your Purpose-Driven Business Without Burnout, Without Sleep Deprivation, and Without Meditation. And so to sign up for that class, you can go to yourbusinessrevival.com. That's yourbusinessrevival.com. Yes. And so you're going to essentially just type that in your browser, yourbusinessrevival.com, and you'll see the upcoming dates for the masterclass, the complete business revival system for overwhelmed professionals, overwhelmed business owners, overwhelmed entrepreneurs. And so we'll detail step by step to in-depth 90-minute workshop and training to go through and ensure you can revive, grow, and scale your business. With that being said, what is today's episode about, right? What's tonight's episode about? Why do marketing campaigns fail? We talked about three of the five. We're going to the last two. So number one, remember, is ensuring that you don't rush the process, right? Ensure that you do not rush the process when it comes to your launch. Your business is based off of your series of launches. And so each launch matters, right? And so thinking about your three phases, the pre, the during, and the post. The second mistake we talked about was ensuring that you actually have a goal for your campaign. Understanding, what do you want from your campaign? And first of all, what are you even launching? But then two, what do you want from it? What do you actually ultimately want from it? And then number three, right, ensure that you understand the difference between the campaign and the strategy, and that you have each of them ready and prepared, and understanding of what each of those are when you're going into your next launch, right? And it could be the same. It could be sort of the launch of the same thing you've already launched, but an enhanced version, right? Like the iPhone 10 versus iPhone 9. Or it could be a completely different thing, like, like a MacBook versus the iPhone, or, whatever it may be. And so, but essentially it is looking at understanding, ensuring that you have the campaign and strategy set in place, right, before, as you're thinking about and going through the launch. So number 4 and 5. So number 4, mistake to avoid is ensuring that, you actually have key metrics. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, what happens, or a lot of business owners in general, you're trying to release something into the world, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the goal, but essentially you're releasing it into the world, but you don't really understand how you're going to measure success, right? So let's say, for example, for me, I knew that I was going to measure success by the best-selling title, right? And I haven't really released a book before, and that right by the time I never really published a book before in the past. I wasn't really familiar with ebooks or Amazon or whatever, and so I couldn't really get specific numbers on what that would mean. But I was like, I'm gonna get best-selling title, and I know it means I just need to get a whole bunch of orders, right? And so in a certain amount of time frame. And so I said, okay, that's what I'm gonna drive for. But essentially, let's say, for example, you're trying to, get monetize your YouTube channel. Like, I'm gonna release a YouTube channel and I want to monetize it, right? Then your key metric may be, I need to get to at least 1,000 subscribers in some amount of time frame. Right. And so understanding that metric, though, is going to allow you to then be able to effectively measure your performance of your campaign. So you can then make strategic decisions about what next, right? What next in that post-launch phase, and sort of what to do, how to pivot effectively, strategically, right, and intelligently for your business. And so ensuring that you are outlining key metrics, and it could be just one metric, it could be a couple metrics, depends on what you're launching, depends on your business, but understanding what are the key metrics that's going to matter to you during each of the launch phases, right? So even just maybe you're trying to get like a launch team together. How many people are you trying to get for the launch team, right? Maybe you're trying to get a certain amount of reactions or engagement with your posts, or a certain amount of traction on your form. How many people are you trying to get? But understanding and outlining those key metrics for yourself, right? Number five mistake to avoid is ensuring that, a lot of people, like, what they'll do is they'll release something into the world, and they'll prepare content for like one day. They'll be like, oh my God, this is my launch announcement. I know my launch announcement is going to have this image and these words. Okay, cool, done. That's all I need is day one. What you want to do is you want to ensure that you are planning and scheduling your content in advance for each of your phases, right? You want to ensure that you understand what you're going to say, how you're going to connect with the world during the pre-launch. You understand what you're going to say and how you connect with the world, on the actual launch day or launch period, right? And that could be anywhere from 1 to 10 days, depending on what you're launching. And you need to understand how you're going to release and connect with the world in the post-launch, right? And that could be anywhere from a week to a year, right? Depending on what it is that you're working on. So for example, let's say that you were, like, for example, for my book, right? I knew that my whole goal for releasing my book was to get the best-selling title. So I wasn't really planning on having sort of okay, I'm going to turn this into like a movie and a TV show and other, right? So for me, the post-launch was very much so, okay, let's just maintain it. Let's ensure that, we have it as a link or an option for people, versus someone else who maybe they're looking to take the book and make it into, they're trying to use the book as a way to catapult their career and their business. Then that person, right, the content for their post-launch may have, invitations for people to invite them to be a speaker. It may include content about, recent articles or blogs that they've written. It may include content about their, for example, invitations to hop on a call with them if they're trying to do one-on-one things. It may include content, that relates to, perhaps their book relates to their store or whatever it is that they're doing. But essentially, planning and scheduling your content in advance for each phase, when you, in alignment with the goal that you chosen, in alignment with the metrics that you have decided, right? In alignment with the fact that you now have a clear strategy, and now you are working on the campaign components of it, right? To ensure that you're actually showing up the way that you need to show up in the whatever forms that you decided for your strategy, right? Your marketing sales funnel. And so, for example, for me, I knew that during my pre-launch, I was like, okay, I'm going to get reviews and I want to use reviews. Actually, also during the launch. During the launch phase, I said, I'm going to use reviews of my book to inspire and motivate more people to know whether or not the book is right for them, right? And so what did that mean? That means that I need to actually get reviews, which I could do in the pre-launch phase. Right? But I was able to know that in advance because I knew what I wanted in the launch phase. I knew what the content I wanted to share, right? Because I had an understanding of the content I wanted to share, I then was able to make that advanced preparation. Now, here's the thing. You might be like, but Vanessa, I'm not going to be able to write out the review that's going to, pop up, 2 months from now. No, maybe you're not going to be able to write out that review, but you can at least know, okay, on this day, March 22nd, I'm going to, post a review of, someone trying out my t-shirt or wearing it, or I'm going to post a review of someone who, participated in the class, or someone who participated in the group beta phase or whatever of the program, right? Or whatever it may be, or someone who experienced something similar to what it is. But you at least understand that on March 22nd, you're going to post a review, You may not know who specifically the review's going to be from, but you know you're going to post a review on March 22nd, right? And so now you just need to work on, between now and March 22nd, getting that review. Because you know that you need that review in order to help with your marketing campaign, because that's what you said you were going to do. And so when you think about your marketing campaign, whether it is, what you've done in the past or what you're actually working on right now, ensure that you're avoiding these 5 mistakes and you're doing your marketing campaign successfully. What does that mean? That means you're not rushing the process. You understand the goal of your campaign. You have key metrics outlined, right, for how you're going to measure success of the goals for each of the phases of your campaign. You understand you have a clear strategy for your campaign in terms of how you're going to actually, release the content and the visual and all that stuff out into the world, right? And you actually also have prepared and planned out that campaign in advance as well. And when you're able and you do all those 5 things successfully, you will have a marketing campaign that will actually be successful for what it is that you want, right? And if you're looking for additional guidance on the strategy component of it, if you're looking for additional guidance on like what to say and how to say and all the things, you're welcome to attend my upcoming masterclass, the complete business revival system for overwhelmed entrepreneurs, overwhelmed business owners, overwhelmed professionals. You're welcome to check that out, yourbusinessrevival.com. Check out the next upcoming date, yourbusinessrevival.com. And I look forward to seeing you there. Once you go on yourbusinessrevival.com, you'll click the register for your spot, right? And then you'll put your name, put your email, choose a date. Then I will see you then, and I'll see you soon. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful, abundant day and abundant evening. Whenever you're watching this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you enjoyed it, react, engage, right? Let me know how you felt about this episode and how I can better support you as well too. Till then, yourbusinessrevival.com. Hop on there, sign up for the next upcoming class, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday as well for the next episode of Entrepreneurship is a Marathon. Chat soon.